I never thought a single conversation could change my life, but it did. It was a rainy Thursday evening when she called me over, her voice trembling in a way I had never heard before. She sounded nervous, almost scared, like she was holding back a truth that had been buried for years. I walked into her apartment, umbrella dripping, heart racing because I could sense something significant was about to happen. She was sitting on the couch, fidgeting with her hands, eyes darting around the room as if the walls themselves might betray her secret. I asked her what was wrong, trying to keep my voice calm, but inside, I was bracing myself for something life-changing. That's when she looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "I don't know how to do this alone. I need you to stand by my side." And in that instant, I realized she wasn't talking about anything ordinary. She was talking about a transformation, a change so deep and personal that it would redefine the person I thought I knew. The first few days were the hardest. I didn't know what to expect. She started small, experimenting with her wardrobe in secret. I watched from the doorway one evening as she tried on a dress I would have never imagined her wearing. She looked at herself in the mirror, unsure, vulnerable, almost scared of the reflection staring back. And yet, there was this spark, a glimmer of authenticity, of someone finally stepping into who she really was. My heart ached, because I wanted to say it was okay, that she didn't need to hide anymore, but I stayed quiet, letting her discover her courage on her own terms. I learned that transformation isn't just about changing your appearance, it's about embracing the truth that you've buried inside, the parts of yourself that everyone else has told you to hide. I remember the day she told me about the hormone therapy she wanted to start. We were sitting at the kitchen table, coffee cooling between us, and she looked me in the eyes, searching for judgment and finding none. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. I could feel the weight of her fears, the years of societal expectations pressing down on her shoulders. I told her, "I'll be here, every step of the way," and I meant it. That moment cemented something between us, a bond forged not by ease but by the willingness to witness someone face the unknown with courage. The first injections were a mix of excitement and terror. She wanted me to be there, and I held her hand as she braved the pain, never letting her doubt herself. Seeing her reaction, the mix of relief and disbelief, made me realize that this journey wasn't just about her, it was about both of us, navigating a world that wasn't always kind to people who dared to be themselves. As weeks turned into months, the changes became more visible. Her features softened, her hair grew longer, and she started carrying herself differently, not because she wanted to impress anyone, but because she was finally expressing the truth inside. I had to learn too. I had to confront my own insecurities, my own assumptions about who she was and who I thought she should be. There were days I struggled, moments when I accidentally used the wrong name or pronoun, and each time I saw the hurt in her eyes, I learned. I apologized, not just for the mistake but for every time I hadn't been brave enough to fully accept her. And slowly, we developed a rhythm, a language of support, of standing side by side even when the world seemed uncertain or unkind. One of the most challenging moments came when she decided to come out to her family. I watched her, terrified and resolute, as she dialed the number. The conversation that followed was brutal. There were tears, anger, confusion, and moments where I thought the line would go dead forever. But through it all, she stayed firm, explaining, correcting, revealing, refusing to let fear dictate her identity. I stayed in the background, offering silent encouragement, ready to jump in if needed, but allowing her to claim her truth. And after hours of back and forth, there was a shift, a sliver of acceptance, a glimmer of hope that the people she loved could eventually see the person she always was. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional, psychological, spiritual. I saw her embrace passions she had suppressed, adopt mannerisms she had always admired in others, experiment with style, voice, even hobbies that she had always thought were off-limits for her. I stood by her as she painted her nails for the first time in a crowded cafe, as she tried on outfits she never thought she'd dare to wear in public, as she learned to walk through the world unapologetically herself. And every time she stepped into a space with newfound confidence, I felt a mixture of awe and humility. I realized the world could be cruel, yes, but it could also be magnificent, full of opportunities for courage and authenticity, if you had someone to stand by your side. The community she found online, the friends she made, they became our support system, and yet, There were moments of doubt, moments when the mirror seemed like an enemy, when the reflection felt like a stranger. She would call me in tears, frustrated, exhausted from the constant mental and emotional labor of transformation. I would sit with her, sometimes in silence, sometimes holding her as she let her feelings flow freely, never trying to fix her, just witnessing her struggle and growth. It taught me patience, empathy, and the quiet power of unwavering support. I learned that standing by someone doesn't mean having all the answers, it means being present even when the path is messy and unclear. One day, months into the journey, she looked at me and said, "I don't even recognize myself sometimes, but I finally like who I am." Her eyes sparkled with tears, not of sadness, but of liberation. That moment hit me harder than anything else, because I realized the gravity of what we had achieved together. Transformation isn't linear. There are setbacks, bad days, moments of fear and doubt. But if you have courage, and if you have someone willing to truly stand by you, those challenges become milestones, steps toward a life that feels authentic. There were still moments of conflict, moments when society's biases made her second-guess herself. I watched her walk into a store, nervously adjusting her outfit, anticipating judgment, and yet she walked out with a small smile, having survived another battle. I saw her courage inspire others, strangers even, who whispered words of encouragement or simply smiled in solidarity. And through it all, I never left her side. I was there for the quiet victories as much as the dramatic breakthroughs, the moments when she whispered, "I can't do this," and I reminded her, "You already are doing it." The deeper we went into this transformation, the more I realized how much I had grown alongside her. I became more aware of the prejudices we all carry, the masks we wear to survive, and the freedom that comes when someone chooses authenticity over comfort. I celebrated the small changes with her, the way her laughter sounded different when she felt at home in her own skin, the subtle shift in her posture, the way her eyes lit up when she looked in the mirror. Each day was a testament to resilience, courage, and the profound effect of unconditional support. Eventually, she started participating in public events, social gatherings, even professional settings, stepping into spaces that would have terrified her before. And every time, I was there, sometimes visible, sometimes silently cheering from the background, proud, awed, and humbled by her bravery. She became a beacon, not just for herself, but for anyone struggling with identity, for anyone afraid to be seen. And standing by her side, I realized that transformation isn't just about who changes, it's about the people who refuse to abandon them along the way. Looking back now, the journey feels almost surreal. There were nights I doubted if I was doing enough, moments I questioned my own strength, but the truth is, all I had to do was be present. Her courage fueled me, her honesty shaped me, and her resilience reminded me what it means to be truly human. Transformation is messy, beautiful, painful, joyous, and terrifying all at once, and I learned that being there, without judgment, without hesitation, without fear, can make all the difference in the world. She's not done yet, and neither am I. The journey continues, each day revealing new layers of her authenticity, new lessons for both of us, new victories to celebrate. I am proud, endlessly proud, and I know that whatever comes next, we face it together. Standing by her side isn't just a promise, it's a privilege, an honor, and a reminder that true courage is contagious, that love can be a quiet, steady force capable of transforming lives. And as I watch her step into the world with the confidence she deserves, I understand fully that some transformations aren't just seen, they're felt, deeply, profoundly, in every shared glance, every whispered encouragement, every silent vow to never leave each other behind. There was one moment, though, that tested both of us more than anything else. She received a letter at her apartment, anonymous, critical, judgmental. It questioned her choices, mocked her transformation, and implied that the people who truly knew her wouldn't accept her. I remember the way she held it, trembling, eyes brimming with tears but refusing to break. For a moment, I felt helpless, wishing I could shield her from every harsh word the world might throw. But I realized that real strength wasn't in protection, it was in facing it, acknowledging the pain, and deciding anyway to move forward. I sat beside her on the couch, holding her hand, letting her lean into me as she read the words aloud, the sting in her voice unmistakable. And then she did something incredible. She crumpled the letter, tossed it into the trash, and looked at me with fire in her eyes. "They don't get to define me," she said, and in that instant, I felt a surge of pride unlike anything I had ever known. From that day on, she approached the world differently. She experimented with bold choices, colors, and expressions that reflected who she was inside, rather than trying to appease anyone else. I followed her lead, learning when to step forward and when to step back, how to cheer without overshadowing, how to support without controlling. She began teaching me that transformation is never just about outward appearances, it's about bravery, honesty, and the courage to rewrite your own story even when the pages are scary and uncertain. Her social circle shifted too. Some friends embraced her wholeheartedly, becoming allies, champions, and companions in her journey. Others fell away, uncomfortable with the change, unable to understand what she was doing. And that, too, became part of the lesson. She had to accept that not everyone would support her, and I had to accept that standing by her meant sometimes witnessing loss and disappointment without turning away. We grieved together, celebrated together, and navigated a world that wasn't always ready to understand. The small victories kept us going. I remember her first time walking into a cafe alone, choosing her outfit with confidence, her hair falling perfectly, her voice steady. She smiled at the barista, who looked up in surprise, and then complimented her style. She came out of that cafe glowing, and I realized she wasn't just changing outwardly, she was transforming her perception of herself, her place in the world. Every day brought a new challenge, a new test, but also a new triumph. I felt honored to witness it all, to be part of a story that was being written in real time, raw and unfiltered. Then came the night she decided she wanted to host a small gathering, inviting friends and family to meet the person she had been becoming. The planning alone was a lesson in patience and resilience. She fretted over every detail, second-guessing herself constantly. I watched her from the sidelines, offering quiet encouragement, holding her when doubts threatened to overwhelm her. And when the night finally arrived, it was nothing short of magical. People came, some hesitant, some supportive, and she navigated it all with grace, poise, and authenticity that left me in awe. Watching her laugh, share stories, and interact without fear, I realized that this wasn't just a celebration of her transformation, it was a celebration of courage, honesty, and the bonds that can hold someone steady when the world seems uncertain. Of course, there were still moments of fear. Walking down crowded streets, encountering strangers who stared or whispered, she sometimes froze. I'd catch her hand, remind her of the strength she had shown countless times before, and she'd continue forward, even when the world seemed intimidating. Those moments were never easy, but they were real. They were proof that transformation is messy, challenging, and often uncomfortable but ultimately liberating. Over time, her confidence became contagious. I saw people inspired by her courage, strangers admitting they had feared expressing themselves, friends asking how she managed to stand so firmly in her truth. And I realized that our journey wasn't just personal anymore, it had ripple effects, touching lives beyond our own apartment walls. Standing by her side had taught me empathy, patience, and the transformative power of unconditional support. I also noticed subtle changes in the way she interacted with the world. She began volunteering, speaking at small gatherings, mentoring others who were struggling with identity and acceptance. Every time she shared her story, I felt a quiet pride, knowing that the person she had always been was finally visible and making a difference. And standing beside her in those moments, I felt the profound truth of what it means to truly support someone. It's not about guidance or control, it's about witnessing, validating, and walking with them through fear, doubt, and growth. Eventually, she began experimenting with professional aspirations she had once thought impossible. She took on leadership roles, presentations, and public engagements, navigating skepticism with poise. I watched her grow into a presence that commanded respect, not through force, but through authenticity, intelligence, and self-assuredness. And every time she accomplished something new, I celebrated quietly from the background, knowing that my role was not to take credit but to witness, support, and remain steadfast. Our relationship deepened in ways I hadn't anticipated. We shared late-night talks, laughter, fears, dreams, and unspoken understanding. We learned each other's triggers, moments of vulnerability, and strengths. I became attuned to the quiet signals, the subtle ways she expressed her needs without words, and she learned to trust me completely. That trust was sacred. It was the foundation of the bond that allowed her to transform fully without hesitation, knowing she wouldn't face judgment, abandonment, or ridicule from me. Even the smallest moments felt monumental. A shared cup of coffee, a compliment on her choice of outfit, a hand held while navigating a busy street, all of these became symbols of love, solidarity, and unwavering support. I began to realize that transformation isn't always about dramatic events. It's in the everyday courage, the quiet victories, and the continuous choice to embrace who you are, no matter how the world reacts. Then came the moment that felt like the culmination of everything. The day she walked into a public event, fully herself, with poise, elegance, and confidence radiating from every gesture. I was there, standing beside her, feeling an overwhelming mix of pride, awe, and humility. She smiled at the crowd, introduced herself, and shared her story with honesty and courage. People listened, nodded, some even wiped tears from their eyes. And in that moment, I understood fully that her transformation had transcended the personal. It had become a beacon, a story of resilience, authenticity, and the quiet, unshakable power of standing by someone's side through it all. Looking back, the journey still feels surreal. There were moments of fear, doubt, frustration, and pain. There were nights when I questioned whether I was doing enough, whether the world was too harsh, whether she would falter under its pressure. But there was always one constant: her courage and our bond. Standing by her side taught me more about identity, empathy, love, and resilience than anything else in my life ever could. Transformation isn't a single act, it's a process, messy and beautiful, terrifying and liberating, and it requires people willing to walk with you through every step. Now, months later, she's thriving. She navigates the world with confidence, grace, and authenticity. She's embraced by friends, family, and community members who respect her truth. And I'm still here, proud beyond words, honored beyond measure, forever changed by the journey we've shared. Standing by her side has shown me that love isn't just a feeling, it's an action, a choice, a commitment to witness, support, and empower someone to be fully themselves. And as she continues to grow, shine, and inspire, I know that the story of her transformation is also a story of courage, resilience, and the quiet, unwavering power of standing together, side by side, no matter what. Then came the day I had been waiting for, though I hadn't realized it until that morning. She invited me to accompany her to a local award ceremony, not for a prize, but as a speaker, someone recognized for her courage and advocacy. I felt a mix of pride and nerves. Public events had always been daunting for her, and I knew the world could be unforgiving. But as we stepped out, dressed impeccably, the air seemed to hum with possibility. People turned, whispered, and stared, and for the first time, she didn't flinch. She held my hand, gave me a small reassuring smile, and together we moved forward. Inside, the room was buzzing with conversation, applause, and anticipation. She paused for a moment, taking it all in, and I could see the tiniest flicker of doubt cross her face, but only for a second. Then she straightened, breathed deeply, and walked to the stage with a grace that made my chest tighten. Watching her, I remembered the first time she had tried on that dress in our apartment, trembling before the mirror. Now, she exuded confidence, authenticity, and quiet power. And I realized that transformation is never just about the end result, it's about surviving every small battle along the way, about choosing courage when fear whispers to stay hidden. Her speech began softly, almost hesitantly, but as she shared her story, the room fell silent, captivated by her honesty, her vulnerability, and her unwavering commitment to living as her true self. She spoke of struggle, of fear, of societal pressure, but also of triumph, growth, and the extraordinary power of acceptance. She mentioned me briefly, thanking me for standing by her side, and I felt tears prick my eyes, not because of recognition, but because of the journey we had shared, every late-night talk, every moment of doubt, every small victory that had led to this. Afterwards, people approached her, expressing admiration, gratitude, and solidarity. Some had struggled with identity themselves, some had loved someone who had, and some simply were inspired by her courage. I watched her interact, laughing, sharing, embracing strangers with the same authenticity that had been her constant throughout this journey. And in that moment, I understood that standing by someone isn't just about personal loyalty, it's about creating a ripple, a wave of courage and inspiration that reaches far beyond the two of you. Later that evening, we walked home together under a quiet sky, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. She leaned against me, exhausted but radiant, and whispered, "I can't believe I did it." I held her close, feeling the weight and beauty of everything we had endured together. "You did it," I told her. "You did it all along. I just got to watch." And she smiled, a soft, knowing smile, one that carried relief, pride, and an almost childlike wonder at the freedom she had claimed for herself. Over the following weeks, the change became more profound than ever. She embraced opportunities she had once feared, built new relationships, and explored facets of her identity that had been dormant for years. And I was there, standing by her side, not as a guide, not as a protector, but as a witness, a constant, someone who had chosen to see her fully and love her without hesitation. Together, we navigated public scrutiny, personal challenges, and the inevitable moments of doubt, always emerging stronger, closer, more resilient. There were nights when we sat quietly, reflecting on how far she had come. She would trace the lines of her reflection in the mirror, sometimes laughing, sometimes in awe, and I would simply sit beside her, marveling at the courage it took to become fully herself. She had grown beyond the person I had first met, stronger, braver, radiant in a way that wasn't just visible, but palpable. I realized that transformation isn't just about who you become, it's about who you reveal yourself to be and the connections that carry you through the unknown. The journey wasn't over, and perhaps it never will be. But each day, she steps further into her authenticity, each day she inspires others, and each day I am reminded of the profound responsibility and honor it is to stand by someone during the most intimate, terrifying, and liberating moments of their life. I've learned patience, empathy, courage, and the power of presence. I've learned that love is not a word but an action, a choice, a steadfast commitment to witness, support, and believe in someone even when the world does not. Now, when I see her laughing freely in public, embracing challenges, connecting with people, and simply being herself, I know that every tear, every doubt, every small victory mattered. Standing by her side through her transformation has shown me that the truest form of courage is not only in the person who dares to change but in those who choose to remain, unwavering, beside them. The journey has been long, sometimes frightening, often exhausting, but ultimately beautiful beyond measure. And as we continue forward, together, I realize that transformation is not a moment, it's a lifetime, and I wouldn't trade a single step of this journey for anything in the world. Because in standing by her side, I discovered not just who she was, but who I could be: patient, loving, courageous, and unafraid of the unknown. I realized that transformation doesn't just change the person, it changes everyone who walks with them. And as she smiles at me now, radiant, confident, and fully herself, I know that this story, our story, is far from over, but it has already changed us forever, and I wouldn't have it any other way.